Okay, this is from a oak tree that I cut down in my backyard about 3 months ago. Right after I cut it down, I went ahead and sealed the ends, let it sit for a couple of weeks, and then cut it into bowl blanks. And this is one of the blanks. So right now I'm just rough cutting it. I'm not sure what shape I want yet. I'll wait to see, what kind of grain is being exposed, and branches and different characteristics of the wood, and that kind of helps me determine what the shape's going to be. Do I want to leave some in, take it all out? So right now I'm putting a foot on the bowl so I can turn that around eventually and clamp it in my jaws to turn it from the other side. So it's starting to take shape. There is a knot on the outer ridge that started to come apart after I stopped it a couple of times and looked, and I was hoping that the whole knot would just fly out and then I would have a place to pour some resin to fill that in and make it look kind of cool. But that didn't happen. The knot was actually very hard. I did have some punky areas around the knot that I tried to pull out with my finger and had limited success. But you'll see once I turn it around and put it in the clamp, the jaws, to start hollowing the inside, half of the bowl goes flying off. So it broke in half, not where I thought it could possibly break. So I basically had to glue it back together, and you'll see that here in probably 2 minutes or so. So I'm cleaning up that foot so I can get the right measurements to turn it around and put it in my chuck. There's the chuck, test fitting it. So now we're sanding it, going through the grit, starting out at 60 to remove some of the punkiness, and going up through the grits, I think 60, 100, 120, then 150, and then later I go back with my orbital sander and apply, I think it's go from 220 or 150 to 220 to 320 to get a smooth finish. And then later on I'll take some all the way up to 2000 grit, wet sanding usually, to get a good hard polished surface. But this piece was pretty punky. It had a lot of rot and just general punky wood, which you don't know is kind of a spongy looking material. It's not good fibers. Basically when you hit it with a knife it just turns to dust. It doesn't really come off in shavings like a good solid piece. But sometimes it looks like the bowl is actually stopping, but that's just because I'm using the ultra high speed, or rather time-lapse feature of the GoPro, and it makes it look like it's completely stopped. And actually it's spinning about 700 RPM. Now I'm going to grab my other bowl gouge here in a minute. It's got a different tip on it to get around those cornered pieces, and that's when it decides to fly apart on me. There it goes. Half the bowl's gone on the floor. So what I do here is I'm applying a thick set of the black Starbond CA glue, and then I spray the accelerator on the other piece, so when I push it together it bonds instantly. It's a good hard bond. It's probably the best part of the bowl now. It's not going to come apart. And here I'm cleaning up that knot hole where it didn't come apart, where I thought it was going to, with a Dremel tool, just going through a couple of different bits to get into some smaller areas and some larger areas to clean it up, where later I'll tape all that off and fill it with a colored resin, probably a transparent, because that knot has some cool grain in it, and I want to be able to see that through the resin, so it won't be a solid color. Haven't decided which color yet, probably a lighter color, so you can see it. But this piece has a lot of rot throughout it. It's got the black lines and some other cool features that once it's sanded way down and gets really polished using some shine juice and some other techniques, it should turn out pretty good. This part of this video it won't show the finished product because I'm actually still working on it, but I'm just kind of brushing up, getting out some of the turn lines and some sanding marks with the orbital sander, so it's got a nice smooth finish. When I get done with that, I'll get out some more sanding sealer and seal it with 2 coats. I let that dry, come back and put another coat on it and let it sit up for a couple of days. I just like to do that for just my own thing. I don't know if it matters, but I like to let it sit and hopefully sand it down and get rid of some of that punkiness when this step is over.